You guys have testified in Congress, you've done TEDx talks. What is it that you're trying to change in the world?
It's based on show, don't tell. We want to share our experience. So we'll tell you it's about showing what's possible. More broadly defined, it's what entrepreneurs can do and the positive impact. It's the we want to share the power of social enterprises. And more narrowly, it's we want to show what people with different abilities can do. And so we'll look for all sorts of ways of doing that. That's not what we expected to do when we started. When we started, it was John needed something meaningful to do. I remember the first time someone asked us to speak out of town. An event organizer called us up and wanted us to fly to Cleveland to speak at a fundraising event. And we said, oh, sure. And she said, okay. And, what are your fees? I said, fees? Huh? Well, you're going to have to pay for our travel. She says, yes, of course we will. But what are your speaker fees? Speaker fees.
I give it a
I
beer or
I
something.
normally got to buy somebody a beer to get them to listen to me.
Yeah.
But here's an example of what I mean of what the platform allows us to do, and then the obligation it creates. So you've mentioned that we've testified down before Congress, and we've been down there other times. That's one thing. Elected officials will take our calls and listen to us. And so, because of that, it's important that we advocate for certain legislative changes and policy changes to advance the rights of people with different abilities. So, we're down there one day, and a customer from Houston, calls our office and says, my mom works on Capitol Hill, and she's a big fan of John's. And I see that, Mark and John are down on Capitol Hill. Do you think my mother could meet them? And our colleague said, sure, here's Mark's cell phone number. Text him mom's contact information. Well, who was mom?
Nancy Pelosi.
Nancy Pelosi. So we get an audience with Nancy Pelosi. One thing that is unfortunate about where we're at today, we so vilify many of our elected officials or people we oppose. The past week, there were people voting in favor of the Supreme Court justice and opponents saying, well, therefore they support pedophiles. I was like, come on now, what are we doing? That's the world we live in. But here we go meet Nancy Pelosi, and forget wherever you are in the political spectrum. Nancy Pelosi is an 80-year-old Italian grandmother. Let's start there. And she sees John, and she's so warm and lovely towards him, and took out pictures of socks that she had given former President George H.W. Bush, because John had somewhat famously become sock buddies with the former president. So it was a nice exchange, right?
Yeah.
And you guys are talking and taking
Yeah.
pictures. But now that we have this opportunity, we have to make use of it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what Ms. Pelosi, now that we're done with the pictures, we need to talk about eliminating the sub minimum wage that allows upwards of 400,000 people with disability to be paid as little as 5 cents an hour in our country.
Holy
Um,
cow.
and because if we get that opportunity, you have to make use of it.
Yeah.
And so, yes, the business has evolved where you're willing to have us on the podcast,
Hmm.
where we do a lot of speaking engagements, where we are able to meet with elected officials. That gives us an opportunity to further our mission, to show what's possible, and to show what people with different abilities can do.